Hello everyone, and welcome to another Astroneer video, this time covering the topic of random number generation, or RNG. Now, I have three setups here that I have created with the help of other people from my community, and these hopefully can meet all of your needs, each with their own benefits and each with their own downsides. The first one comes from someone named Super Rivs. He does his own streaming as well, so by all means feel go over and drop a follow on his channel. But he came up with the idea of mimicking a dice roll by using a medium storage silo with resources on it. Now you can place these resources from top to bottom in binary because you only have 4 slots instead of 6. So depending on what you land on, depends on what you end up rolling. Now we have our own little bit of randomness here and we hit the medium resource canister, but 1, 0, 1 represents a 5, so we just rolled a 5. There is a downside of this where you can possibly land on these little strips on the side, but to handle that you can essentially just roll again. It's nothing too special, but this does a pretty good job of determining numbers 1 through 6, as long as you don't need to do anything with that result. The other option, this one is a little bit more complicated, is a binary counter. So before I get into this, it's kind of important to know what causes random numbers. So in computer language, when you create a random number, the randomness is an entire mathematic formula that is based on what's known as a seed. Now, a seed is a time that the computer has been keeping track of for a very, very long time, and it's basically just been running. So when you ask for a random number, it uses that seed and produces a number. Later on down the line, if you ask for another random number, it uses the new seed, because the timer has still been running, and it produces a new random number. The theory is that as long as the counter keeps running, you're never going to get the same number within certain parameters, and depends on what you pass in and stuff like that. However, if you do have the exact same time passed in, like you fake a random number for testing reasons, you will always get the same result because it is a mathematical formula. So a way to mimic this timer is, as I've mentioned earlier, to use a binary counter. I originally used this medium resource canister as a clock, but I've been having some issue with the storage sensor and Automation 2.0, so for now I'm just going to do it manually. But this generator, when you turn it on, as well as all of these other three, turn on this little work light here. And this power sensor on power lost will turn on the next one. So upon loss there, the next one turns on. This represents 2 in binary. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth, counting up through all the binary reasons. Now, because you have 4 generators here, you can produce 16 different random outcomes. The only difficulty is you need to figure out a way to determine which generators are on and which ones aren't. Now, if you've seen any of my other circuitry videos, you will know that I have created some means to do so. This one works through all the methods of a 2-generator system, and you can see that for 2 generators, it already is kind of complex. So doing it for 4 is just going to add an entire another level of unnecessary difficulty. So while you do get a lot of options with this method, if you really want to spend the time and go through all of the different possibilities and multiplexing and all that whole type of stuff, you can certainly do so. But for now, this one is a little bit complex, but it does do the job because it is worth mentioning. As we move on to our final setup, this one is what I've determined to be the most robust method. Quite simply, we have a bunch of small A platforms, one of which has Astroneer to fill its item slots. These auto arms are going to ferry this Astroneer from platform to platform. When it lands on a platform, that work light turns on, which is what we want to see to signal that this platform is currently active due to a storage sensor. And when this Astroneer gets picked off, obviously the light goes out. And when we put it on the next one, the next sort of thing happens. However, just to make things run, it doesn't work quite as smoothly as that. Focusing just on the inner circle for now, you can see that when this Astroneer is placed down, there is a little bit of time where the auto arm picks it up before the next possibility is triggered. Now this is an issue because if you search for a random number in this period right here before it reaches the next platform, then you encounter like a random possibility of not actually being able to get your random value, which is kind of an issue. So my method for fixing that is to use a small extra set of generators. So initially this generator is going to get turned on, which triggers a power sensor, which turns on this extra generator out here. Now this generator is going to stay on until the next one turns it off. So if we watch the whole thing, this generator is on until it gets to the next platform. Even though these lights go out to signify that the Astroneer is moving position, the outer light stays on, meaning that we are holding this random value until it gets to the next position and turns on the next one. And then that, of course, turns off the preceding one, meaning that we can only have one at the current moment. So this is basically all you need to do for a random number. This is this entire setup right here, this simple little square. Everything over here to the right is proof of concept. So this is the demonstration that the random value truly is accurate. So this button essentially cuts off all of those 4 auto arms, as well as allows power to flow through these power sensors. So what it does is it stops the randomness in its tracks. The randomness no longer continues, and instead we display one of 4 numbers. Indexing from 0, we have 0, 1, 2, and 3. So say we want a random number right about now. Hit the button, and our 1 is displayed. Instead of displaying a 1, this can certainly be your first random option, as opposed to just displaying a number. It could be one of 4 possible outcomes that you have predetermined to occur. We let it run for a little bit, and then when it reaches its next section, we can, once again, trigger it, and this time we have 3. And that's all just done based off of these cable plugs and hitting the appropriate work lights with it. If we let it transition over, now we have 0. And we'll let it go one more time just so we can display the 2 properly. And there we go. So there's our 2. Now again, because we turn these auto arms off, this halts in its path, so our randomness doesn't progress at all. This method is easily the best of the 3. It can just be a little bit slow because you're waiting for the Astroneer to move from platform to platform, but that is essentially mimicking a computer's internal clock that a random number would be generated off of normally. So if you want to add more platforms, you certainly can. You also don't even need to add this extra circuitry outside that I've opted to do so. You can certainly just have the platforms with the power sensors on them to trigger your random outcome, except you will need to be cautious, of the possibility where the Astroneer is currently in transit from one platform to the other. So if you want to make sure that doesn't happen, a setup like this would be more applicable. But if you are okay with that, then you can extend this as much as you would like, or as little as you would like, even if you only have 2 outcomes. But regardless, you will result in a random value being generated whenever you allow your trigger to happen. Like for me, it's this button. This specific design I kind of came up with the idea of someone else in my community named RandomBoy. He has a Twitter and he's posted some other stuff about Astroneer, so by all means, go and follow him as well. But that about wraps it up for this video. It's a little bit of a shorter one than usual because I didn't really explain much of these circuits. But if you do have any questions, if you do have any other ideas, even other possibilities of how to do randomness, by all means, let me know. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch, even subscribe here, but comment, send me a DM, do anything. Just get your questions out there because I love answering them. I'm really passionate for this type of stuff, and I'm more than happy to talk about whatever concept you guys have. So for now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully we'll see you guys in another one, but have a good rest of your day.